It's good now. Anyways, guys, good morning. Hi, we're talking about redneck things. All right, Carl, finish off. I want to listen.
Well, I was just getting back to it's not just a redneck thing. It's just it lasted in like the redneck space longer.
Yeah.
That people just didn't really give a shit unless you're bothering someone because no one really has the time or energy to bother with your shit. Now people have just too much fucking time on their hands.
I blame the internet. I blame the damn internet and that damn Doom and Quake. I don't know. I don't know how to be a boomer now. What do you blame for things now? Misogyny? Is misogyny still the boogeyman? I don't
I
fucking
don't
know.
know. I think misogyny is still big though because I got accused. Like I was at an after party, and I've had a little bit too much to drink, so I kind of dropped the whole line about relationships are a woman's job, and I kind of got, oh, you got a horrible view of women. I was like, no, I got a horrible view of humanity as a whole. Women are just part of it.
Gee, that's weird. Usually they back off and apologize. I didn't expect this guy to double down. Where can she take that, right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like I don't hate you because you're a woman. I hate you because you're human.
Yeah. Pain in
So
the
at least I
ass.
recognize that you are more than two-thirds of a person.
Part that always makes me laugh on these stuff is those kind of conversations. It'll always be some person who's like divorced in that, and I'm just sitting there with my wife, and I'm like, oh yeah, tell me more about my toxic views of relationships. Fuck you, buddy. But I was because we had two topics. I guess it was me was touch grass, and you was how did that happen? I'm gonna make notes. I got the guys really like when I take notes and put timestamps on it so they can go back to parts they like. It's either that or I start a clips channel. I don't have the patience for it.
Well, I do like the timestamps because I can go back and kind of review. Because sometimes I do it when I have time. I will go back and I'll look over the comments, and some guy will be like, "Yeah, the conversation at 10:11 was great," and then I have to go in at 10:11. And the
I know
worst
I
part
like
is
those
people have
ones.
started doing that shit on porn too now. It's fucking ridiculous.
What? Let me guess. They're always about 90% of the way through the video. That scene it with a minute left is great. I'm like,
Well, like people are time stamping fucking porn, so like you'll go into Pornhub and it'll be like, okay, 2.30.3 blowjob,
oh
two
yes,
three
yes. I've
3 minutes 45 seconds reverse cowgirl, and it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Dude, yeah, I remember they were blogging about that on their blog. I can't remember when it was, but it was not just that, but there's also like a wave thing that shows like how many people, like if there's 100 views, if 90 people watch a certain part of it, the histogram goes up, so you can see what like the most watched parts of videos are. And I was like, I'm thinking like take the porn out of it. I'm just thinking from an analytics perspective, they've got so much better stuff than YouTube has. It's like maybe I should join those gunsmith guys who make you know how they have Pornhub because they'll you can do anal, so of course you can build a gun on our channel when nobody else will let them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
I'll
think that's
start
going to
doing
be the
that.
interesting take, though. Because I'm always kind of interested in like how are we going to go? Are we going to have like a flashback to conservatism or traditionalism, or are we not? And I'm just leaning not, unless you get a full-on fledged war.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I
Because
saw
like,
is apparently the new conservative guy running for France went on like a Charles de Gaulle, we got to win France back. It can't be reformed platform. So I don't know. But then every example of that I see some like drag queen got elected to the Senate or something. I'm like, all right, this sounds like it's all
no,
above my pay grade. Let them duke it out.
well, I just think the main thing that I'm seeing is that a lot of the things that used to be like major conservative issues are just not getting traction anymore. Just like immigration isn't trending as hard in most of Europe, just on the basis that most people know an immigrant or two and know they're not here to kill us all. It's like
It's true.
most girls are enjoying being able to go out, drink, fucking wear mini skirts without, getting a scarlet letter on them. And I think the major thing that's going to kill conservatism is just they're fucking boring.
Yeah. Wasn't that the push now? Everybody's trying to find their Huey Lewis in the news, the guy who makes it hip to be square. There's an 80s reference. I felt like such a boomer saying it too. I mean,
Well, Sports is a great album.
I was just thinking of you wearing like a raincoat, a clear raincoat while you're talking about that. No, I agree though. Like everybody seems to forget this whole return bullshit. It's like the boomers. had it. They had all the trad lifestyle. And then the birth control pill and weed was invented. And then they gave that shit up in like a hot minute and they never looked back. So I'm like, it wasn't that good if an entire generation just stopped it. It's the first chance they had. It wasn't even like, we'll try it. Like, no, they all left. And the ones that didn't leave raised stupid kids who talk about semen retention.
Well, the thing is, I actually figured out why marriages lasted so much longer in the 50s.
Okay.
It turns out they were treating PMS and menstrual cramps with cannabis.
Really?
So it's like, so what's your girl like on her period? She's so chill and mellow. She just lays on the couch and wants to cuddle and eat all day.
What's your husband like after work? He's too drunk to notice.
It's like, yeah, but what's your girl going to do when she's after a period and she's up like 5 pounds from all eating all that chocolate? Well, she's just going to get methamphetamines to drop the weight.
If you get a little hysteria, you go to the doctor. He'll diddle you for a couple minutes, give you some cocaine. He'll sort that right out. Yeah, speaking of which, there's your tradition. Cocaine to get up in the morning, heroin to go to sleep at night. Traditional. Just like Jesus intended.
Well, it's like Amin says in chat here, I could kind of live with conservatives when their main thing was fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
So like you had the liberals that were spending all the money, were going nuts, about all this shit. And then you'd have a conservative guy who'd come in, balance the budgets, make sure you're not overspending. I kind of like that balance.
When was the last time we had that, though?
90s, 80s maybe.
Actually, maybe in our country. Actually, you know what? To be fair, Chrétien's government had a pretty good finance minister. The States, I think you have to go before Reagan because he spent the shit out of everything. But I think that's the issue now is there's no right or left. It's just it's two tribes fighting over who gets to take all the money. But the problem is nobody's paying taxes. So it's just like inflating the money. And that's how you get the money. I know, it's this weird war of attrition. But then again, does it ever affect you? It never really affects me. Yeah, property values going up. So I'm in the real estate market, which is nice, but investments are going up. But like all the rest of the stuff does not hit me at all.
Well, some things are going to influence you. Like, obviously, real estate prices are going to hit everyone with property. And it's also going to hit everyone in a rental, I guess. The labor market, yeah, that's going to hit pretty much everyone. But, like, a lot of the things that people care about, like, why do I care if some 16-year-old has an abortion?
If anything,
I'm actually in favor
more of that.
Yeah, same here, because like those people end up going on welfare and then more taxes and so on. Like, why do I care if someone's doing drugs or fucking around? I just don't. Like, I'm too busy with my own fucking to care about other people's fucking.
Yeah, and I think that was really the only expectation you had of any like the public sector. Like, gate these people from my life in a helpful way, right? Make it so this single mom that's 16 years old doesn't have to fuck up my life because of her choices. And that's kind of where the whole
make sure her son doesn't rob me in like 16 years.
Yeah, put a cop on this corner to shoot him, put a welfare officer there to pay them, put a food stamp guy over there to give her food. If they want to fail, that's their business. I'm willing to pay that little bit of extra taxes because I don't... Call me a softie, but I don't like the idea of people starving in the streets while I walk over them to go get in my Bentley, you know?
YUD, that's so cute. Like, thinking that anyone who's under 40 is ever going to get to retire. That's cute.
Yeah, YUD, here's something about demographics. The boomers are the giantest generation ever. And they got paid by everybody else who's been working underneath them. And then once they retire, there's nobody left. You think there's enough Zoomers around to pay for millennials to retire? Like, no. Gen X already knew this. They know we're not getting shit.
Yeah, like I figure the only way I'm going to be able to retire is to build enough money by myself and put that somewhere where it doesn't get hit too bad when the climate wars kick in about 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny. That's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like the ultimate long-term goals, pay off at least one mortgage and have enough of a nest egg where I don't have to work. Whether it's one currency or another. And it's weird because all the preppers are like, no, you got to get ammo and beans. I'm like, Mad Max is not a documentary, dude. I don't think we are going to turn into Mogadishu anytime soon. Could be wrong. Greece had some riots, but I don't remember people in Greece grabbing fucking hockey gear and putting spikes on it.
No, I think you kind of raise the level for how far you're able to fall
Yeah.
within nations too, unless you get hit with like a Yugoslavia moment.
What happened in no, so what happened in Yugo? Like I know it's split up and you got your two countries and that, and then it
Well,
balkanized,
what
but this details I don't know.
what happened was more or less that the Soviets drew borders about the same way the fucking colonial powers did in like the 1700s.
Darts.
And then you ended up with Yugoslavia, which was essentially like five or six different groups within like one area in under one country, and that worked as long as they had Tito as the leader, who was sort of their kind of Stalin.
Hmm.
Like the funniest story about Tito is he sent a letter to Stalin, like, "Stop sending people to kill me. We caught a guy with a rifle. We caught a guy with poison. We caught a guy with a crossbow. If you keep doing this, I'm going to send one guy to Moscow and I won't have to send another one."
that's that's a pretty fuck around and find out. The Rittenhouse
Anyway,
letters.
but what happened was once Tito died, there was no like strong leader to take over. So
Hmm.
it kind of they tried to keep it together because that would technically have been better for everyone, but you had like really strong, if I remember, Serb nationalism, so they kind of
Yeah.
wanted to be their own country. So you ended up with essentially a sectarian war between Christians and Muslims to some extent, but there were groups fighting all over the place, and they were doing ethnic cleansing of the Muslim majority, minority, etc., etc., etc. It's too much detail to go into, but it was just you had gathered too many people with different perspectives and no shared values in one spot. And that worked as long as you had like a strong leader and you had that shared identity. But once that was gone, everyone was just like, fuck these guys.
Oh, fair enough. Well, that explains then when I told that guy in Croatia that I was a half Irish, and he's like, "Oh, you're Catholic. You're cool." All right.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not gonna argue with the Slavic guy who says he likes me.
Well, I think that's a thing you see in Ireland too, with the Catholic Protestants. It hasn't been too bad the last 20 years, but before that, you had a hellish fucking 30 years there. But that
I can see
actually
that.
speaks to kind of like the let's call it the Anglo perspective
Hmm.
that the Irish essentially killed each other and the British with car bombs, slingshots, anything they could get their hands on for the better part of 30 fucking years. You know what they call that shit?
What?
The Troubles.
A little bit of an
Is that like the
understatement.
understatement of the fucking century? It's like, the IRA was blowing up fucking pubs with suicide bombers, so it was a bit of the Troubles.
Bit sticky. See, it's funny. I don't know. I wonder if it's going the way of Quebec. 'Cause we had some hardcore separatists for a while there, like that FLQ. I don't know if you guys remember that. Even made it into Die Hard. It was funny because I was a kid. Remember when Hans is giving that speech about I want you to like free all these leaders across the world and the Front Liberté de Quebec. I'm like, oh, those are the guys that kidnapped like some members of parliament, and then Trudeau's dad initiated martial law to hunt these guys down. I was like, oh, cool. And then when reporters started getting all bleeding heart, it's like, how far are you willing to go? He's like, just try me. It's like the most popular Canadian moment is the day we went to martial law, which I'm kind of weirdly proud about, but not. I don't know. But nowadays, nobody gives a shit about that, other than as a grift. And that's where I was going with this. The CEO of Air Canada just got in hot water. It's a crown corporation, and the head of it, the CEO, the new one, doesn't speak French. And then somebody asked about that. It's like, are you going to be learning French? He goes, have you seen my fucking schedule? So Quebec got pissed, and now they're trying to get him canceled. But then nobody really cares about the language part of it. Quebec just cares that if everything is required to be bilingual, then if you're from Quebec, you have a greater opportunity to get into stuff. Like you pretty much have to be from Quebec if you want to become like a head of state. It's just really interesting how I see like that's the same dynamic of like woke people doing power plays and that.
Well, it
But
kind of
as a
reminds me
West
of like
Coaster, it's
the
never like affected me, so it's weird.
yeah, it's like France just took over like the main trade part of the EU for the next couple of years.
Really good for them.
Eh, Yeah, and a friend of mine was like, "Okay, the French just took over, and lo and behold, every fucking document is in only fucking French."
Yeah, Makes me laugh. Everybody's like, "Oh, woe is me. We're the underdogs. You fight for truth. You fight for what's right. Get in power." Like, fuck all you guys.
Yeah, like the worst part is like from a purely like efficiency standpoint, I'm in favor of deleting every language in the world except English.
It would be efficient. I mean, it's almost worked out that way already. But I'm with you.
Well, my reasoning behind choosing English over every other language is the combination of a large and precise vocabulary.
And ever
At
change.
the
It's a living
same
document.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's precise enough because you have more efficient languages, but they're not as precise. And then you have languages that are less precise but have larger vocabularies.
Oh, so you're talking like the difference between Japanese and Spanish, basically. Those are the two extreme ends.
I don't know either, so I would know better.
Well,
Know
Spanish
anything
is
about
like
that.
ridiculous. Spanish and Korean are like ridiculously easy to read, to write, to speak. There's no like, hidden letters and shit like that. In the Korean language, the letters that you write actually show the shape of your tongue to say the word. And then you get to like Japanese and Chinese, where it's like 3,000 characters and everything's irreducibly complex.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But again,
But
like it
okay,
matters.
and yeah, and to kind of go at the chat here, like I'd say the major reason to be a globalist, if anything,
Self interest.
is well, just on the basis that that means that when the country I'm in start fucking up too bad, I can move to another one without too much friction.
And if there's any Australians in the chat, I expect to hear you guys on board with that. You better not be fighting me on that. Unless you're that guy that broke out of the wellness center, in which case I want to hear your story, bro. Oh yeah, you're off topic. Have to mention it. So fucking funny. So I found out about those Australian, quarantine centers that they're
Yeah,
essentially
yeah.
like you're imprisoned. And I found out about it because I was like on Reddit, and then somebody put a news article about how 3 guys escaped. They cut the barbed wire fence and then got out, and the cops were hunting them down. And there was some dude in the chat who was pulling like a peak Redditor moment because everybody's like, okay, barbed wire, cops not letting you leave. Looks like Auschwitz. Come on. Come on. And the guy's like, it's not a concentration camp. It's a it's a quarantine wellness center. I just laughed. It's just a work camp and they had typhoid, guys. Come on. But yeah, I don't know. It just made me laugh. The typical Australians, a bunch of kids just like broke out of prison to go party. I think they eventually got caught again, but yeah, I feels bad for those guys. The Redditor, man, and that's the touch grass thing. It's like guys have this such a fixed view of how things work that's not attached to reality. So all of that's why people sound crazy. It's not because they're crazy; they're perfectly rational. It's just they've never seen or experienced anything. So when all you learn is how to do shit through a book, of course your takes are idiotic because you have no basis of reality to anchor yourself to. Speaking of the manosphere.
Well, it's similar to like because I read a ton
Yeah.
before, and it's still kind of an issue now. But when you expand your vocabulary largely by reading, you won't learn pronunciation properly. So you'll end up using words that you have no idea how to pronounce just because they're fitting, and you'll be corrected a fuck ton of times before you actually get that right.
Yeah. And I've done those mistakes before. There's been a few times on this cast actually where I'm like, I've read that word, written the word, I've never said the word before, and I'm like, I hope I get it right. And then one guy in the chat always loves to like, yes, I got this motherfucker now. You may have a channel, but at least I can pronounce this shit properly, a pleb. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Oh man,
That would
I'm
be
all
funny
fussy
though.
today.
Like some guy does a YouTube channel like Ryan's fucks up a pronunciation, just basically gotcha videos of
Oh
you
no,
fucking up
you can't
words.
do this, man. Because every time you say things like that, somebody starts a brand. Remember, don't be dot soy. You keep your mouth. You keep your mouth shut, sir. I saw that. There was the joke account. Ryan's horrible shirts. I know for a fact you were the influence on that. If that wasn't your alternate one, you keep your mouth shut about these new brands. You're killing me.
Yeah, like I don't really have alternate accounts. Like I have the one I ended up with accidentally that I told you about that inspired this brand, but or this cast. But other than that,
Yeah. Oh well, it's all
I
good.
think I think
Damn, I
the
was
whole
trying to
thing
find
though
you.
is
Okay, go.
I think
Yeah.
it's very easy though to kind of get yourself into that because like, let's be honest, most of us spend a lot of time online, especially during like COVID, and now they're doing more rounds of lockdowns and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of natural that people spend time online, but you have to kind of be careful when you spend time online because you run into a lot of weird shit online.
Yeah. Have you taken the
It's like
dog pill? Speaking of weird shit.
the dog pill.
Oh my god. So it's one of those. It's like furries. It's girls that would like, and incels were big on it. And I normally don't watch the black pill stuff, but this one was just too funny not to. I guess their theory is that we are so unattractive to women, they'd rather sleep with dogs than us. And if it was just some kids talking, I think it's weird. But there's a lot of like chicks online with YouTube accounts talking about how they love their dog and it's better, and like Twitch streamers who get humped on cam with their dogs. It's the weirdest thing. This guy I watch, a Canadian content creator, Short Fat Otaku, did a video, got a community strike on it. They fucking nuked that from orbit. So I'm glad I watched it. But I was just like, imagine if you had a friend, like just a friend that you can go play hopscotch with, and that none of that would have happened.
Well, you don't even have to play hopscotch. You just go out and go bar crawling or something. Anything
Yes.
but staying online.
Well, yeah. Like I realized it too. My brother, he watches my. He's probably watching this one. He always gets the notification. He hit the bell icon, guys, and the notification stuff. So you have no excuse. But like his YouTube experience, completely separate from mine. All the stuff he watches. He showed me this travel vlogger, Bald and something or other. He's a British guy, speaks Russian and Punjab or whatever, and just travels around. Millions of views, huge channel. Never heard of him before. And I'll talk to him about our travel blogger. It's called the Food Ranger. Guy from Vancouver, goes to India, eats the food, rates it. He's like, again, millions of views, never heard of the guy. And I just realized then when we go and we talk together, we kind of, talk about real stuff, but then our experiences outside of like real life are so disparate. Like I'm surprised if you get a bunch of people doing that enough, you probably have nothing in common. And here, there's what I was looking for. So I'm gonna. You mind if we dunk on a Twitter account while we're here?
Yeah, sure. I'll
All right,
dunk
so
on anyone. I'm bored.
sweet. So this guy here, I was like, the Twitter, it gives you the trends. I hit masculinity. Oh, fuck, don't hit masculinity. Don't ever follow that trend. It's just hot garbage. Is one masculine theory, and master your sexual energy, get clarity on your mission, create an income online. He's got like 50,000 followers, so somehow he's huge. His whole thing is about semen retention. And he's expanded to a YouTube channel. If you see me on Twitter ever put like a did I stutter, hold your energy in with like this weird looking brown kid, it's from him. And it's just fucking weird. Him and there's other guy, PUA Day Game or something like that. It's just like 20-year-old kids talking tough about masculinity on shit that they read in a book. Like the guy can't even grow a beard. He just grows peach fuzz, but the guys who can't grow a beard but grow it anyway.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like the effort's what matters. Yeah, this is that kind
It
of guy.
doesn't
And I
come in
realized,
properly. They have like patchy as fuck. Usually, it looks like something out of Joe Dirt, the movie.
yeah, it looks like your crotchal area.
And like, to be honest, like I've looked back through like the pictures of me from when I was like 18 and I grew my first quote unquote beard.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I kind of noticed is that at least I was able to avoid like the patchy ass beard face or the peach fuzz mustache.
Yeah, same.
So like I had a goatee and sideburns for ages just because that was the only place I could fucking grow facial hair.
Dude, that was the big thing. Remember that when The Rock had it and you had like the angled sideburns that go from top
Yeah,
to
yeah.
bottom like that? Oh yeah, I rocked that shit. I don't no shame. That I did Frosted Tips, all of the 90s ones. Limp Biscuit for
But I,
life.
but I do kind of love that like every account of this, like I'm looking at the masculine theory one now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of funny how every account feels like
The same.
Marcus Aurelius crossed with Trenbolone, crossed with way too much time on Reddit.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But that's what I get it. Like I get the Lost Boys thing. Illimitable Man wrote about that. If you guys don't know, Lost Boys, basically nobody's there to help guide you, so you have to figure it out on your own. And most guys really suffer through that. So like, I get that. But then that's the problem is that this guy, he wants to make money online, and he's not alone. I'm pointing him out just because he's the one that stood out to me. But there's like 500 of these ones, and they're all huge, 50,000, 100,000. I don't know, huge for Twitter, I guess. And they're all doing the same thing. And the guys that follow him are the ones that worry me, because he obviously doesn't know what he's doing. He has no fucking clue. He's never talked to a girl. He probably jerks off and then feels guilty about it, whatever. But then other people follow him, and then you got the blind leading the blind here. And this is one of those like touch grass moments. Like, dude, have a friend who works out to teach you about working out. Have a friend who, has a healthy sex life to talk about sex. And I'm not worried, but I am concerned that, you're going to have a business soon, Carl. Start your own business, maybe. Have an employee. I'll probably get employees soon. This is going to be the pickings. Is this what you want? Some thirsty dude who has no idea, and as soon as a girl walks by, fucks over your whole business? It's like, I don't know, man.
Well, at least in my perspective, I prefer not having employees.
Oh, I prefer it.
And it's like, it kind of gets into the debate I had with, I can't remember who it was, where it's like, I just have no aspirations to be a manager or a leader in the corporate world of any kind.
It's just funny because you'd be a good one too. Like, we've talked before. You have tons of examples where you would be great at it. But I'm with you. It's like, so?
Well,
Does not
it's
oblige
just like-
me?
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't do it if it was a sufficient pay raise over what I have now. But at the same time, it would have to be enough to land me in a place where I have fuck you money in 3 years. Because I think I would last about 3 months before I tell everyone to fuck off. Because it's one thing you kind of don't realize until you've worked with CEOs and boards and that, is that the CEO is being whipped day and night by the fucking board, is getting called up by huge shareholders, 11 o'clock at fucking night on weekends and everything. And same thing with your board members. They're getting phone calls from, their ownership, from other board members, from C-level executives. And like, the people who have the least fucking freedom in any kind of corporate world are the people on the C-level. People who have the most fucking freedom are the IT people and the people working customer service who are stoned at work 24/7 and couldn't give a shit, but are just there because it's easy work and it makes money.
I just think back to every firm has that one infrastructure guy who is the only guy who knows like the little nuances, every little extra piece of code that was thrown in, the extra pieces of hardware, and he's like basically irreplaceable. He's always the guy who's always burnt out. You can never get a hold of because he's always busy. He has 8 kids at home, and so he hides at the office to work. You know that guy?
Yeah, I know. And I mean,
doesn't even wear a suit
extent,
because what are you going to do about it?
Well, it's much better, I would argue, to be in that type of position because at that point, yeah, you can walk and you'd probably get hired the next day. But once you've gotten one of those good, like, creamy C-level jobs, it's
Right.
really hard to downsize off that.
I could see that. Well, the perks
Because
alone.
there is because like one thing is cash and perks, but the other thing is you do get quite a bit of freedom. It's just that you can never enjoy that freedom because your phone is beeping 24/7. Well, golden cage would imply that it's golden in the first place. So, like, I would say you can make more money in more pleasurable ways, and for the most part, you don't need that much fucking money.
Nope.
Sure, if you want to live like the way you think rappers live based on their fucking music videos, sure. But why would you want to do that?
Well, that's what I'm wondering too. A lot of the guys like, I got to live this way. Well, what do you end up doing? You end up getting bored, you do drugs, and then you burn out. You buy a bunch of shit, you buy clothes you'll never wear, you buy stuff you'll never use. You have a second house that you never live in. Like my brother, his house, I went to go see his house. It's a nice house. It's on the lake. It's basically like one house stacked on top of another house. It's one of those giant like 4-bedroom type houses, 4 or 5 bedrooms.
Yeah.
2 living rooms, 2 sets of bedrooms, 2 sets of bathrooms, all that stuff. He's like, and he never goes downstairs. So like he has twice the house he needs, and he's not going to rent it out, the bottom half, which would make sense.
No,
So
but
he basically
that's-
got twice of what he needed.
and that's essentially, for me, that's every person who's ever owned a house. Like, I had visitors here that stayed over for a while now. Well, not a while, but I've had like a fairly regular bunch of visitors that came to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I'd love to have like an ensuite bathroom attached to the master bedroom here,
Right.
just so you had the opportunity to kind of retreat to that when you have guests.
The Fortress of Solitude. All right, I'm with you on that.
But at the same time, though, it's most of the time you end up spending in essentially your bedroom, your living room, and, wherever you work from.
Yeah. I'll add the kitchen to it. Not even the dining room, just the kitchen.
Well, even the kitchen, it's more like how much time do you spend in your kitchen if you weren't shooting like cooking videos and so on?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. So you're talking about like per time. I just figure kitchen and bathroom one of those ones that are like essential, even though you don't spend a huge amount of time in there. So I feel you. I feel
Yeah,
you.
yeah, obviously, but the point here was like if you have a bathroom, you can live without the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen those. I've seen gamers with like mini microwaves stuck under their gaming desks.
Oh, the sad MGTOW apartment types. Well, here's a good one. It's changing topic, but whatever. We're avid tubers like Ryan. Be interested in your thoughts on RP evangelism. I gave him the very easy answer, which is don't. But I figure we can rant on the evangelicals. 1 second here.
Well, my take is like I just don't like things that you can't put a good KPI on.
So what do you mean here? Like, what's the KPI? The evangelical part of it? Like, what's the
Well,
benefit for you? Or
well, like there are Lutheranism is growing in China because they're seeing that the Protestant work ethic is really useful if you're trying to grow your fucking economy. But for the most part, I just don't see any ideas in religion and in ideology for the most part that add value or that you can measure. Because I think of religion was what we had before we had science.
right?
And then ideology is what we had when we didn't have big data.
Yeah, no.
Because
What's that? The Age of Reason or something like that, right?
yeah, the point being that like when you can figure out that yeah, the moon isn't really, Thor dragging a fucking chariot across the goddamn sky or whatever. And you can actually math out that this is just the force of gravity. That's a better explanation than, this fucker with a horse cart dragging the moon across the sky. And once you get to the point where you're like, okay, should we expand, let's say, welfare programs, or should we, leave that to the private sector? You can actually figure out which one is better based on data. And
Which
data
works
is
for
better
most
than
things.
ideology.
Yeah. There's some things you don't have enough information to make good decisions, but that's like there's ways to make better decisions with limited data too, right? And I would
Yeah,
argue
there are.
when it comes to the whole like chariot and Thor thing, I think that's kind of where it's meant to fit, places where you don't have enough information to make good choices. But that's more of like a pattern recognition thing, like case in point. We talk about game, talking to girls, the 2/3 rule, don't talk to them more than they talk to you. I'm sure you know it. The idea is not to
Yeah.
be needy. And then in a marriage, if you find out your wife's calling you 5 times a day, lackluster love life, all right, well, that worked in the past. Let's apply that to here, even though you don't have enough information to work with, and it tends to work. But I'd argue, yeah, you don't need to have Thor in a chariot riding across. You just have to realize, like, in 4 other places, this particular strategy worked. So let's try it in this fifth one where I don't know. Because it's kind of when they're close enough. I'm not wording it. I got to get better at marketing where I can word this in a
Well,
sing-songy way.
what you're saying is essentially that it's David Hume, basically.
Ah, yes,
That
that's exactly what I meant. David
because
Hume. I couldn't
I,
remember the
I think
name.
at least I think it was Hume that made the argument that okay, just because the sun has risen
Yeah,
every day all through recorded history of mankind is no guarantee that it will rise tomorrow, but it gives a high probability that it will.
yeah,
And it's the same thing. Like if your strategy has worked and in the club, in the pub, in the library, in the coffee shop, why not try it in the university and see if it works there too?
right. But you're right, because then when you put Thor in the chariot thing, then you get attached to the symbol. Like the symbol may have worked. That, Thor chariot thing worked back when you were a Viking, but now that you're, a modern person, it doesn't work some more. But you're so attached to the story that you're unwilling to adapt that strategy you had to something new. And I think that's where a lot of guys lose their. I mean, that's where all this crap is. That's where this masculine account came from. He's basically a fundamental Christian, whether he knows it or not. All this nofap, semen retention shit, this is fundy stuff. I think everybody can agree on that. American fundamentalism specifically, or maybe some German sect or whatever. They always hate the idea that guys do anything with their dick other than make more babies. Catholics or fundies, doesn't matter. I guess I should call them Christians. I shouldn't say fundies.
Well, I think that's one of those things that I find very interesting is because even with God, but even with politics, the degree of ownership a group requires over the innermost thoughts and bodies of the members. So let's see, why do we need to go in and regulate when a woman can have a medical procedure? Why do we need to regulate what you can and can't put into your body if you want to? Because, like, I'm in favor of the government doing things like, okay, let's say you have a public healthcare system. For the Americans, that means that you pay for your healthcare via taxes, so you get it significantly cheaper than if you have to negotiate by yourself.
Right.
I can see that the government in that case can be like, okay, cigarettes are bad for you. We're going to put a tax on cigarettes to cover the additional medical costs we're going to get because you smoke. That's fair enough.
Yeah, and devil's always in the details on that, because if it was a fund set aside for that purpose, that'd be great. The problem is once you put it in the general coffer, it's just a black hole. And then everybody, if they need more income, they can squeeze these guys because it's an inelastic thing. Like, people are going to smoke regardless of the tax you throw on it. That's how addiction works. Booze tax, lottery tax, all the same thing. They know they can, or military even. They love, whenever they have to do cuts, it's always to the military because it's illegal for you to protest your living conditions. You're giving up those rights. That's the problem I have. Like, in theory, on paper, absolutely right. Yeah, you do this tax, it pays for the smokers, it cancels itself out. Just the way it works out, it never seems to work that way.
No, and I think that's a second set of problems, I would argue. Because you're trying to solve a very specific problem. Okay, we have a public healthcare system. Smokers are going to tax that more than the average person. So they should have to bear the additional cost. And I kind of agree with the principle behind that. It's the same as, the principle, if you pollute, you pay.
Right.
Which I also think is a fair principle. If you...
Well, your externalities. Remove the negative externalities and make them...
Yeah, like you have to pay. If you fuck something up that affects the rest of us, you have to pay for it. I think that's fair. Like, you set fire to the community center, you have to pay for a new one.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and like I said, there's only two things I'm noticing come up. And funny enough, COVID comes up with this. You know that argument now where, like, if you decide not to get vaccinated, then you don't get health care because you're taxing the system? How do we deal with that? I'm like, well, how do you deal with fat people and smokers right now? Like, do they get denied health care because they're smoking? No.
Well,
but here's where I'm going with this, though. It's like a complexity thing. Okay, fine then. Everybody has to pay for their externalities. Fat people have to pay a fat tax. Smoking people pay a smoking tax. The unvaccinated people have to do extra healthcare stuff. And then how far do you go down that? And you notice the system then becomes so encumbered. Well, I mean, you play a dangerous sport. You don't do stairs. You run, and that's bad for your joints. And then it gets to the point that there's so many different systems that it becomes highly inefficient. And sometimes it's easier just to absorb the cost and say, look, everybody does something that causes harm to the system. So we're just going to, have a blanket system. We're not going to do any administration to judge, or what's that? Judge Dredd, or no, what was the Stallone movie where they were like, they banned sugar or whatever?
Yeah, that's Judge Dredd.
Oh, there's that Judge Dredd? Okay, yeah, where they do that shit there. So instead of doing all that and making a giant oppressive system that sorts it out, let's just assume everybody's bullshit cancels itself out. And I kind of like that because whatever that cost in administration is usually ends up being higher than the amount of savings you do by making people pay for their own fuck-ups.
Yeah, and this is also why I got kicked out of a recent debate I participated in.
Oh! That serves you right for a debate. Walking in like it's Christopher Hitchens 2008, you dummy.
Well, apparently telling the opponent in a debate that, okay, cannabis does have some health issues attached to it. But objectively speaking, you being a fat cunt is going to tax our health system way more than some dude smoking a joint. It's not appropriate language for a public debate.
It's not that you're wrong, you're just mean about it. Holy
Yeah,
jeez,
but
here's your red pill evangelicalism there. Or evangelism.
but to be honest though, I think that's part of the problem because like I remember how my grandfather was. Because
Yeah.
he was a very polite guy when he met people. Like he had his manners and everything down, but like you meet a guy and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is so and so. He's married to so and so. We've known each other 20 years." That guy walks away and he's like, "Yeah, he's been cheating on his wife for 40 fucking years. He's a fucking asshole. Never give him money and he drinks too much."
I like that though. It's not like he's polite, but at the same time he's not stupid. I'd say that's actually probably an awesome way to. I like your grand. The more I hear about him, the more I like him. Because that's exactly how you should be. If you ever go on a Fresh and Fit, if they ever invite you, which I don't know, maybe they will. They seem to like anybody and everybody. You get on there and just be like
Thanks.
charming to the OnlyFans models there. Be charming and pleasant, happy-go-lucky. As soon as they leave, I would never wife any of them up. Fuck that.
No, but I think that's kind of that's the biggest issue though with like the red meat thing. Like, you don't have to call a whore to her face. Even though I will admit, and I'm not perfect in this, in that, I try to remain polite and, well-mannered as much as I can, but occasionally you have to call someone a cunt. That's just the way the world works.
Right. Incompatible.
Well, why you do, I don't think you do get that free rider problem because in the end, let's take smokers as a very, very concrete example.
Yeah.
They do require more healthcare before they die because they get cancers, they get lung issues, what the fuck ever. But they also die much earlier. So if you have a public pension system, you save on pensions. So you should take the extra healthcare cost, deduct the pension savings, and would be your net calculation for smokers. Because like the most expensive fucking people in any Western society are women that live to be like fucking 107.
Oh, geez. Net negative on the tax revenue.
A net negative is an understatement. Like women in general are net negative. They only have, I think New Zealand had the only study that was done on this before they banned them. But they kind of arrived at that women are net positive taxpayers for like 5 years out of their life, and everything else they're net drains. Men are net drains until they're 18, and then they're generally net positive.
Which is funny. Remember that whole argument that the government just wants women to work and not make babies so they can... Yeah, no, that doesn't really fly. It turns out that was actually a horrible economic idea for governments for tax revenue. Oh, trads. You lose out to numbers and math. Suck
Well,
it.
the thing is, you can't ever underestimate human nature. It's just that part of it. And the same thing, like, if I could get the same money I get now without working, of course I fucking would.
This is my
the
office moment where I
logical-
stare at the camera as you say this salient point.
Well, it's like the
tell me more
logical
about this plan.
consequence. It's like nobody works because they want to, unless they're fucking sick in the head.
Yeah. Yeah, the workaholic types. But even they don't want to work. They just... It's like a drug addiction. Nobody wants to get hooked on heroin. They're just hooked on heroin.
But you think what you should implement in every Western country, though, is you should cap taxes.
Cap how?
Well, you should say that no matter what, government should never be able to tax you for more than 25% of your total income.
That's all taxes? We're talking about hidden taxes?
That's
talking about VAT
everything.
taxes?
That's absolutely everything. That's VATs. That's different.
Well, then how can you do VATs? Because then if somebody decides get
let me
taxed
continue
more, you just
here.
buy more stuff. Okay, yeah.
Let me continue. But the point is, you put that in there and you say you can raise that percentage or the tax amount by the same amount that inflation. So you keep the tax revenue a constant. And then everything else has to be done through a public works project that people are directly voting for.
Hey, isn't that how Rome did it?
Yeah,
Sounds
it's similar.
vaguely familiar.
It's similar to how Rome did it.
Look at
And
that. I told you guys I fucking read.
And the whole point of doing that way is that the way government does money is opposite of how everyone else does fucking money, because government decides what they want to spend first, and then they figure out how to come up with the money, whereas everyone else has to come up with the money first and then figure out how to fucking spend it.
Yeah. Like I said, my only issue with all this, and like back to the other guy's point about the free riders and that, it's just I don't trust people. Like you said with the thing where like I don't hate women, I hate people. You just happen to be one of them. I just don't trust people who have to make these decisions to make the good decisions. Like, and there's no consequences if they screw it up. I love your idea of the tax cap and then that thing there. But let's say somebody decides to not do that. What can you do? Can't arrest them. What are you going to do? Arrest a head of state? Like when heads of state break the laws all the time. Never seen one get arrested ever. Never seen one.
Yeah, and this is
never
the
seen
one
them lose
thing,
their money.
And this is the one thing we lost when we went from sovereign kings to elected representatives. Because if the king taxed you as much as these fuckers do now, there would be a line with pitchforks and torches outside the castle, and his entire family would be dead in like 2 days.
Very France of you.
And I'm not advocating that we actually go to the streets and kill politicians. I'm just saying that the biggest problem is we have no system. Like in most countries, the elected representatives of the people are the highest office of the land. In practice.
Yeah.
So who are going to hold them accountable?
I don't know, the Coast Guard? Simpsons reference.
And my theory here, though, is find all those miserable bitches that handle social welfare.
Okay.
Get the DMV employees. Get the people at the building office. Like, get the worst bureaucrats you can find, the most like detail-oriented, expense-hounding Nazis.
The puckered of the most puckered of assholes.
Yeah, and just let them control the politicians, and you have the problem solved. Because, like most people, like if the prime minister or president of whatever country you're in, you can hate Biden as much as you want. But if he came to you and you're like, we're in a national crisis, we need to fix it, most people would fall in line behind their leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need those people who wouldn't. Those people need to be... Those people need to be the ones that hold the people who most people follow accountable.
Yeah, I suppose...
like get accountants to fucking do it. They like... I saw this like comedian do a great bit, and he was like, if you have people skills and a drinking problem, you're in sales. If you have people skills and you have problem solving skills, you're in management. If you have problem solving skills and OCD, you're a fucking accountant.
You know what? I think about this and I think back to that, like the trick to immortality is just to stop dying. This all sounds great. It sounds perfect. I'd love to do it. Accountants are easily pushed around, so they'll never... You get some sociopath at the head of state, he'll push them around too to make them do what he wants. Or some head of state chick will catch the thirsty accountant. Well, I mean, they're kind of doing it now. So here's, and I guess the topic we had for this part was red pill evangelism, or evangelism. And I was thinking, there's no shortage of YouTube channels that complain about this. The Tim Pool effect, right? They're coming for your guns. It's those damn liberals. Not one person talks about navigating this. Like right now, you're right. We got a bunch of like petty corruption. Not horrible. Like we're not doing, I don't know, some South American dictator type corruption here. But it's everybody's like lining their pockets, skimming a little off the top, or sometimes they just do some COVID restriction because, hey, it feels fun to fuck with people and get away with it or whatever. So I kind of know that's the landscape. Everybody's going to be kind of getting out on their own. Everybody's kind of selfish. Everybody makes laws knowing that they can't be enforced, just assuming that people like to go along to get along. How do you navigate through that? Which, unfortunately, is like the Chad answer. If a law can't be enforced, why are you following it? Unless it serves your interest, right? I'm not suggesting people break the law. I don't know. I'm suggesting as like a abstract theory. Yeah, that the accountants holding them accountable would be great, but that's not there and it's not going to happen. So they keep passing these stupid laws, It's at the point, and I'm kind of rambling here. It's my Rolo moment. Sorry, Carl. I don't mean to do this, but
It's okay. Go ahead. I have the
drunk
answer
driving.
for you when you're done.
Yeah, drunk driving. Perfect example. In BC, there is some insane draconian drunk driving laws. It's so bad there that the cops have joined this organization called Sense BC, saying, I can't fight crime when every day I have to make sure if somebody had a sip of alcohol 3 days ago that I got to tow his car and put him into a coffee course. So it's at that point, like, these really tight grips on all these laws, it allows you to slip through. Like, tax avoidance right now has never been easier. Not tax evasion, tax avoidance. Because they've made the tax law so complicated. And so that's the point. You could say, well, we just make a flat tax this and make it all simple. I'm like, that's great. Right now, I'm just going to use tax avoidance and not have to pay any taxes. So yeah, if I'm making, 50 grand on YouTube, my take home pay is still as much as earning 100 grand at Deloitte, And it's a little bit, it's parasitical, but I mean, if you're caught in a crazy land where everybody's playing by a certain set of rules, you might as well play to win. When the rules change to be more fair, then play fair.
I do have the answer to that, though. Get the MGTOWs. Get those to control
they'll
people.
sort it out.
Well, just on the basis that if you have the time and energy to do like a 4-hour PowerPoint video taking down like a sentence Rolo said on a podcast offhandedly 3 years ago.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You most definitely have the time to go through like every single like line in the accounting from some politician.
We're screwed as a society when, like, what we need? We need the MGTOWs to solve this problem. Oh, man. If we just check out and analyze this stuff to death, it'll solve all the... Well done, sir. Their line was right. If we just check out, then they'll be begging us to come back.
Yeah, well, the thing that you've kind of mistaked with that, no one wants them to come back.
No. Yeah, it's not going your own way. It's a coping strategy. If you're good, people want you. It's just the law of the universe. But whatever.
What was the other one there was another one I thought was funny here that we could comment on, but it looks like it just went disappear in chat.
Ooh, there's actually two. So the first one, I got to do a business one here. Somebody was asking, where was it? About the merch and how do you support the channel. I realize I don't even talk about this stuff. All right, so for those of you guys in the channel, it's 138 you here now. We'll probably have 230 by the end of the thing. There's a lot of content put out. I've had to kind of like collect it now, so I get it. So there's this channel, obviously. And you guys all know the different playlists on that, and that's fine. You subscribe to the channel. There's a second channel, Digital Ryan. I think I've put the link in the chat. I'll put it here at some point. It'll be in the description. That one's more like just sitting at your barber, talking Red Pill stuff casually. It's just a gaming channel. It's pretty fun, but it's got a subscriber option. And it's going to tie into Patreon, because we got Patreon. Patreon, it's all Red Pill. All we talk about is relationships. Field reports, no red meat, real lives. It's discreet, so people can actually talk about their lives without worrying about Karen losing her shit on fucking Twitter, right? But a lot of people don't like Patreon because they don't like it as a platform for all the canceling, which is fine. So what I've done as an alternative is the gaming channel. There's a subscription option. There's 3 tiers. The first tier is just thanks for support. I'll give you like a merch discount, which is coming out next week. Second tier is like you can join the Minecraft channel. We can collab. You can do stuff. There's 2 guys already starting their own like YouTube channels based off this stuff. So it's really cool, like helping men get along. And then the third tier is you get part of the same field report group. We're on like a 3rd graduating class already. It's so awesome to see guys go from fucking nothing to like switched on and red pill. And I'm talking like where you see goofy red meat shit here and you just laugh because you're like, I'm past it right now. So then you got the both of those there, so you can get into those, and that's just in the community channel for the Digital Ryan one. And if that helps you, that gives like the full overview of how this stuff works. Then obviously there's the book and the podcast and that. Anyways, Carl, what was the other one you were talking about? I think I know which one you were talking about. It was just below the free rider thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I'm trying to find it in chat. But some guys asked me about my best hangover cure, and the best hangover cure is just to not stop drinking.
Hair of the dog.
Well, it's 2 ways to go about it. Like, if you're going to keep drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you just have to keep rolling into it. So you just don't let yourself get sober. But if I'm going to do that like 2 days in a row, I like to have like the second you wake up, just go straight into like a good breakfast and alcohol.
That's such a military thing to say. I'm not gonna lie to you. Do you know how many times we've pulled out of like San Diego, and our boss would look at us? We'd always have the same line. It's like, "Are you hungover?" And you'd look back at your boss. You're like, "Not yet." And they would used to get mad, but they're like, "Oh, he's still doing his job and he's sitting quietly. Yeah, he keeps farting, but whatever." But yeah, that's how you roll. I gotta say, I've field tested that and it works. Having said
Well,
that, don't do it forever because it wears you down.
yeah, but like the reason I would argue like the full English breakfast is perfect for this is that if you're like the way alcohol works is if you have fat in your stomach, that slows down absorption.
Right?
So if you're going to be drinking for a long time, you really want grease in your stomach before you start drinking. And the English breakfast, it's eggs cooked in lard or butter. It's full fat sausage, black pudding, and bacon. That's essentially 80% fucking grease.
Which I guess works. I don't think I've had. I did have had a little bit of that. Mexican breakfast is similar, just more corn. Oh, there was the
Fair
hangover
enough.
one. That was the actual question. I'm so slow on the uptake on this one. I'm getting there.
Yeah, like and if you're just not going to drink anymore, then it kind of depends on you, really. It's if you're in like Canada or a state where it's legal, just get some cannabis in your system immediately, and 800 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams of paracetamol, not ibuprofen.
Oh, actually, you know what's funny? The Polacks I used to work with were having their beta's best one. They brine stuff, which makes sense because it's like electrolytes,
Yeah,
right? They used to
yeah,
drink
and
pickle
salt too.
juice. Yeah, salt, sugar, water. I find the hydration for me matters more than anything. And then avoiding things with tannins, like don't get drunk off of Guinness or red wine, because even when you're sober, then your head is just like aching.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, like you can kind of control how hungover you get because certain things will get you more hungover than others, and then mixing certain things will kind of fuck you up too. Like if you go beer, wine, brandy, for instance, is not a good one.
Brandy alone, man.
Yeah,
It's
like
like,
brandy
hey,
alone
red
will
wine
kill
doesn't give
you.
you enough of a headache. Let's condense it. All right,
But
sounds
like
good.
I had a client a few years ago who was a huge francophile. So every client dinner was like 3, 4 courses of heavy Bordeaux wines, followed by brandy. And not like, a small one brandy, one glass of wine either. Like one wine with every course, plus like one before you started eating, plus like 4 or 5 brandies afterwards.
Dude, if I didn't know any better, I'd say that's like the French version of waterboarding.
And it's pretty fucking close, man.
Yeah.
Because like when I go out with well, I don't do it as much anymore, but when I used to drink a lot for work, I would always stick with like the most milk toast lager I could find and vodka or whiskey.
Vodka. That's me too. I love it. Vodka, martinis. The martinis, I realize that's why they're so good. Because they come with their own electrolytes with the brine from the olives, right? If you get a dirty one. Like I can drink those all
Yeah.
day, but if I try a peaty whiskey, I'm done. Next morning, I am done.
Well, I do like gin tonics for that exact reason is you're getting at least like 50% water with every drink.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. Which yeah, ice cubes isn't a lot of water, but then, hard liquor's not much liquor either, so it works out really well. I
Yeah, but at
find
the same time, though, like
uh-huh.
hard liquor doesn't because if you're drinking red wine or hard liquor, you'll most likely be getting some kind of water with it because you're like, at least I've never been the guy who just chugs back scotches all day. You have to throw like a glass of water in there between all the peat to clear your palate.
Yeah. I'm with you. Well, I mean, kids sometimes are like just whatever, go hard or go home, right? I find, you know what I love about this too? Like you guys were just talking about drinking. But this is applicable to everything I've found. Here's your touch grass moment. Like when you're doing things that are self-destructive but fun, you always kind of pepper in enough like productive in there. Way to like stave off the damage. You can sleep with bipolar chicks, use a fake name, or learn don't get too attached. Or when you work at this job, like remember way back at the beginning of this cast when you were, I don't know where you were in the States, but you had like your whiskey still and you were like working like a dog at that one corporate office. But you never started talking about the company like you guys were family. For you, as soon as a better opportunity came by, you just stepped off. Otherwise, you'd have been that workaholic that was there and gained weight over 20 years and then never got anything but a gold watch for his troubles, you know?
Well, that goes back to the Venkatesh Rao again, the Gervais principle, right?
Right.
That you can be a loser and you can be a sociopath, you just never want to be clueless. And I feel if you've been in corporate for more than 2 years and you're still clueless, that's your own fucking problem.
Let him burn. I agree. I'm still surprised how many guys are like that. And they're always really good employees too. It's almost like being the best at your job has like it takes away from being best at taking care of yourself. I almost want to say there's like some metric that you have to take from one to give to the other. There's no way to have both. I could be wrong because maybe you're switched on and a sociopath, but then again, I think when it's a choice between Carl and Carl's company, you always pick Carl, and I think that's what I mean.
Well, I think
If
that's
I'm right.
just, well, that should be the logical thing with relationships too, though. Like, you should
Absolutely.
always be like your own interests 51% in a relationship.
Might quibble about the percentages, but I like we're definitely on the right side of the
Yeah, but
of
like the reason why I'm always kind of revert to 51% there is that when you're trying to sell this to a guy who's in a relationship where his girl is 98% of his relationship, he can kind of get around to, yeah, it should be 51% me and then 49% her. That sounds fair because she's going to go for her thing. So it's easier to get them into that as opposed to
get
saying
you.
that, you know, you have to be like 98% gay lube oil, otherwise this relationship is going to shit.
I get it. The moon is made out of cheese.
So like it doesn't matter what the percentage is. The important thing is the guy starts actually taking more space for himself in his relationship. That means going from 98% her to 90% her, that's still progress in the right direction. It's the same thing if you haven't been laid in like 2 years and you fuck a 3 after she did ketamine, that's fair enough, but at least you got laid. It's not the ideal woman you'd want to fuck. It's not the ideal situation you want to be in, but it's still better than the situation you were in 30 seconds before you blew your load.
Yeah, don't care. Got laid. Dude, that was like on my old blog. I remember that. I was talking about it. It was this 52-year-old guy. It was probably one of my favorite individual field reports I've ever seen. And he was literally, I just divorced. Wife zeroed me out. Found rational male. Like, you know the whole story. And then
Yeah.
he's like, I got to get back into it. So we went bush leagues. He's like, I got this chubby chick. And I was like, oh, and I didn't like it, but it's the first girl I've slept with other than my wife of 20 years. And then it was funny because he went from like hard threes to like soft fours. Then he had himself, what he called it was like a chubby but cute Filipino single mom and a Jamaican lady. And then he was at the bar and he ran into like a 7, like a hotter girl. And he's like, oh, this girl's pretty cute. And he talked to her and she started giving him attitude and all this stuff, even though they were kind of flirting and it was going well. And this is why I love that, like, oh, whatever, don't ever fuck a 5. I'm like, well, here's the thing. He was looking at this going, yeah, she's the hottest girl I've been with since my marriage, sure, but she's such a pain in the ass. I can just go home and yeah, that girl's a 4, but she'll put out and she's pleasant. So I don't need this shit. And it was the one thing he kind of noticed on his dates. He's like, it just changed how I acted, little ways. And then the girls stopped being bitchy to me. And it's just funny. Everybody talks about like ugly girls aren't worth it. I'm like, well, that ugly girl basically gave this guy the confidence and the abundance to not put up with chick shit anymore. So if anything, I say bless those chubbers. They're making
Well,
the world a
like,
better place.
and for the most part, like I think the scale like 1 to 10 is useful to kind of quantify progress.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
But
As
I
like
think
an
it's
objective thing, it's ridiculous.
But I think it's like I think I probably put more time than almost anyone in the manosphere into trying to objectively quantify sexual market value. I put fucking 2 years into that shit.
I still
Still
laugh,
can't
by the
fucking
way,
do
that you
it.
have probably the most experience out of anybody in the red pill because you just made the effort to do something. And already now you're like the 99th percentile of guys. What'd you do? I don't know. I just tried all this shit we talked about briefly and it worked or didn't.
But
Million
the whole
dollar accounts. I haven't tried it. I just sounded good on a tweet.
well, and kind of the point I was getting at is just on the basis that like if you're not getting laid today, like do it binary. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's better to be laid than not be laid.
Yep.
Okay. Once you get there, it's better to be laid by a girl you're attracted to rather than whatever girl you could find that was drunk enough to fuck you.
Right.
Okay, that's binary. Okay, next binary is okay, you can get a hotter girl that's less pleasant, or you can get a girl who's less hot but doesn't grind your balls or doesn't annoy you, whatever.
Yeah, or the hot crazy thing. Better in bed, but a lot of extra grief, or just like
Yeah,
pleasant
and
and
at
but
that
like
point you get
bland.
into kind of like the hard choices because at that point it's kind of like, okay, I could get a 7 that's bipolar and fucks the shit out of me, but sets my car on fucking fire. Or I could get like the 6 that cooks me food and washes my clothes when I'm asleep after we fucked. And at that point, you're starting to make active choices about, okay, you know what, that's not worth the effort, or this is not good enough anymore. And you can actually make some degree of a objective judgment on that, as opposed to I only fuck 9s or 10s. If I don't view her as a 9 right now, then I'm not even going to make the effort to talk to her.
Yeah. And you know what I love about that? It's like guys are just chasing their dicks. That's what the argument is. It's not meaningful, blah blah blah. You've basically described a guy discovering his value, his values in the earth, his ethics, you know? Because there's no wrong answers to this. You can make any choice you want and nobody's going to say it's wrong because, some people like the same choices, some people don't. But I love that because a guy literally doesn't have to have some, what's that one, masculine therapy account tell him what you want. No tattoos, no shaved heads, no whatever. He's like, no, I've been there. I've done that. I like this. I don't like this. I like this. And you know it. Like, try it once. You ever been whipped? It's a hypothetical question or a rhetorical question. If you ever been whipped, no, I don't like being whipped. Have you? Like, no. Well, try it. I tried it. I don't like it. But I know that. I'd stop short at because you always bring up pegging after this. Well, you haven't tried. I'm like, all right, I'm perfectly fine to make that the exception. But I think
Yeah,
guys
I'm
are
not going to make
afraid to
that
try
joke
things.
again, but it was great for the first time.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, so guys are so afraid to learn things the hard way. And I find that red pill works best when it's giving guys the tools to learn things the hard way and a safety net if they fuck it up. Here's your BPD chick. This is what's probably going to happen. You're going to fall fast. You're going to fall hard. She's going to be everything you wanted. You're going to learn why opening your mouth is stupid and great in bed, but not worth the hassle. And then you're going to see the pleasant girl. Like all these things. So kind of let you know what you're in for. Like teaser trailers for life. And then guys will build their own values from it, their own ethics, their own morality from it, which is great because Red Pill doesn't offer you a moral framework. That's for you to do on your own. That's why I love how it's immoral. But you know what I mean? This whole thing, it's just like, it starts with getting your dick wet, and then it ends with a measure of self-actualization. Like I could argue, Carl, you're probably the most self-actualized person in the nonsensical sphere, and all you had to do was stuff, which makes you stand out from the rest. There's some receipts. And
Well,
I guess,
there's
am I
also
fluffing
like,
you too much, or is this about the right amount of fluffing, by the way?
yeah, but there's been a guy trash talking me in chat that I had to time out like 3 minutes ago. All fucking podcast, so who cares?
What the?
Well, it's kind of similar to my example would be like I love really gourmet food,
Yeah.
but my lunch was 2 trash hot dogs because I have nostalgic memories of those. Like I have a soft spot for it,
Me too.
and like the ability to actually put your preference over your status
It's hard to
is
do, man.
it's something that to me signals you've actually gone beyond quote unquote normal. Because if you have the option, yeah, I could go to this great steakhouse. I could have like wagyu or however the fuck I'm supposed to pronounce it. I could have like a $800 bottle of wine, but I'm just gonna go and grab like a burger from this dive bar and have whatever fucking Bud Light they have on tap because that's what I prefer. Is actually a power move.
Yeah. Well, it's because there's a social hit to it too, right? Because everybody in your group's like the wagyu is this is the flex, and you got to do that if you want the status in the group. But just you deciding consciously that you know that, and you're still fine with that. It's a powerful signal because it's not a cheap signal. Isn't that the key with all the evil psych stuff? The good signals are the expensive ones.
Yeah, and I think the point is you're willing to take the social hit in order to live with your preference.
And that shows abundance.
Well, it
But I guess it
shows
could
that
backfire, but it usually doesn't.
yeah,
Which is
of
weird.
course it could. Like you don't want to like try and drag, power clients to a McDonald's for lunch because you're hankering for a fucking hash brown. But again, that kind of comes into, common sense.
I was going to say self-awareness or situational awareness might be a more accurate. Well, I mean, whatever. We're quibbling over the terms, but we know what we're talking about. Yeah. But you understand the consequences of your actions and things are deliberate. Again, a very rare skill. I think that's why a lot of people just go for the status things and go with the flow because those are hard choices and you might get it wrong. And it's just like a worldwide version of you never get fired for suggesting IBM. You remember that old thing?
Yeah, yeah.
I think people just take that for everything in their life. But it's good. And,
Because
and it's
there's
not like it's new. People know this. I told you the story before about the British aristocrat, didn't I? Maybe?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's this funny little parable. I don't remember. It was like a lot of people, like British immigrants, would tell us about some lord or whatever. One day, his friend caught him. He was in like a pub or whatever, dressed as like a dingy whatever. And the guy's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" He goes, "It's okay. Nobody here knows who I am." And then the next day, he's back at like his gentleman's club or whatever, sees the same friend, the same aristocrat, dressed in shabby clothes again. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing? This is a black tie event." He goes, "It's okay. Everybody knows who I am here." And that's kind of what you were talking about there. It's like he's willing to take these social hits because he's like, either they know who I am or they don't know who I am. And then he makes his conscious choice to dress comfortable and shabby. I think it's one of those dry British humors that only British people get. But for me, I find it hilarious.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as like there was a story I think I saw because like unfortunately I'm kind of obsessive about reading things that I find interesting. And I came across this guy who told a story like I've been married to my wife for 20 fucking years. Her family are all bakers and patissiers and so on. So every time we go there, there's like 3, 5, 10 fucking cakes. And I fucking hate cake. And the guy was, well, what do you like? I like Snickers bars. And the guy just decided, like, I've been eating their fucking cakes for 20 years. So from now on, when they bring up beautiful homemade cakes for us to eat, I just sit there eating a fucking Snickers bar out of the wrapper because that's what I like. And you have to fucking respect it. You don't have to agree with it, but you have to fucking respect it.
Yeah, I agree. That makes me laugh. I don't know why. The Snickers. I just remember my buddy used to do that when I was kids. Like my mom would make steaks and stuff like that, and he would just ask for hot dogs. It was just a weird. I get it now. Like when my girl,
Yeah, I get where
we
he's coming
travel
from.
apart. Like when she leaves, she's like, "What are you gonna do? You gonna go out get drunk and meet some hoes?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna eat hot dogs and watch anime." And when I leave, like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm gonna watch rom coms and eat ice cream." It's like, that's when you know your relationship is solid. When like, "Oh, I finally am rid of the bitch. What do you want to do?" And you pick like the most like nostalgic, banal task ever. I'm watching Akira again, and I'm eating some hoagies. By the way, probably the best thing ever. Just eat hot dogs, a little bit of mustard on a hot dog. Don't even do the bun, and then just watch Akira, the original
Oh,
one.
by the way, good mustard is underrated.
I agree.
It's like
It's hard to find good stuff though.
well, it's like for me, it was more like the whole yellow mustard was never my thing. Like I can do Dijon, but I like the really like whole grain mustard where it's you actually get a punch of mustard and vinegar when you eat that shit.
Oh yeah, that like spicy bit. It's almost like a horseradishy kind of feel to it, right?
Yeah, but not like that trash, like spicy mayonnaise shit they do, but like there's actually a kick to the mustard.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Like the actual. That's why the closest I can call it is a horseradishy taste to it. But I know what you're saying, where it's not harsh, like chemically harsh. It's just like food harsh. Does
Yeah,
that
and
make
it's
any
not like
sense? How I describe
spice.
it?
Yeah, but it's not spicy like chili spicy either, but you get a little. It's kind of like gingery in a sense in terms of spiciness. It feels like when you add like a little bit of ginger to something.
Yeah, well, it's like the three types of spice I call it. There's like the red Szechuan peppercorns, the mouth numbing one. There's like the capsicum spicy one, and there's that one that you're talking about, which is kind of like I guess nasal clearing. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not spicy, but it's definitely a kick. I love that taste.
And it's I don't know, good Dijon and Dijon is good though.
Yep.
I do agree with Danny on that one.
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna argue with that. You guys are coming out with these aggressive takes. Good Dijon mustard is good. It's like, well, where can we take it from there? I'm gonna argue with you, sir. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I like this stuff. But I find it's funny because most guys are insecure. Back to the Lost Boys thing. Most guys are insecure about their place in life. They don't have any objective metrics that they can look at and be proud of their stuff. Like, very few people look back in their lives and like, I'm glad I did that. I realize it's very rare. All of my friends do that. Like you do that. And I always take it for granted. That's just what everybody does. And when I go back to see family, same thing. Even the fuck ups in my family, it's always like very interesting lives and that. And I forget there's a giant group of people that are like fodder, life fodder, you know? And I kind of feel bad because they're the ones that follow fucking masculine whatever and listen to his stupid semen
Geek.
retention videos. Yeah.
Yeah,
Geek. Oh, sorry about that one, Rob. That was a good jab. I like that one. Yeah, and those guys, and they're the ones that are always saying like, "I need help. I want help," and they're always the ones that like take that help and fuck it up. So I kind of have a let them burn attitude. I like the people that had the potential to have interesting lives, but through circumstance, maybe some things didn't go right because they bounce back, and they're a very small group. That's why this channel's small and why you're fun. Like they'll never be on Fresh and Fit, but they'll enjoy this shit, and I always like those group. It's the least artistic group on the internet.
by the way, I
AUR.
really think you'd like this whiskey I told you about earlier. I just poured a little bit of it.
Oh, hold on a sec. I'm gonna get a timestamp for this so we can see 11721. That was the Three Swallows.
Yeah, it's like when Carl started drinking is the timestamp on this one.
Oh, when Carl started drinking. Here I was calling it the Three Swallows whiskey review. All right, so
No,
tell
but
me about it.
okay, it has a bit of peat on the nose. Like, not a lot of it, like you'd expect from like Islay whiskeys.
Right?
And you get more of that, typically Irish spiciness, right? Because
Right?
I'm not big into Irish whiskey, but every one I've had has some level of spiciness to it. And
Huh.
this is different from all the other three forms of spiciness you just went through, but you can kind of get spices on the nose. And I'm getting a little bit of like
Get your nose in there.
burnt sugar, like Maillard reactions.
Also, is that like toffee or?
I wouldn't call it toffee. I'd say caramel, but that's a level of distinction.
No, I think I
So it's more
understand.
caramel than toffee. And it's very rounded in the flavor, but it's a lot thicker than you'd expect from like a typically Jameson.
Interesting.
And you're also seeing it kind of with the tears on the glass that it's thicker.
That's the residue as it comes down slowly because it's
Yeah, like if
thicker
you
than water.
swirl it in your glass, it sticks on the side.
Oh, see, I never knew what that meant. That's kind of neat. I'm learning. I'm learning
But
here.
I will say though, for a bottle that's about €10 more expensive than Jameson, it's a marked improvement in quality.
I'm gonna have to find that stuff and see if I can grab a bottle of it. I'm hoping we can. Might have to go to like
Then,
Halifax or Dublin to get it, but whatever.
then again, like in terms of like, I've never been much into Irish whiskey, as you know, but I'm trying to get into it because I've been kind of worked through a lot of the Scottish whiskey. And
Right?
since I can't drink brandy because of the hangovers, and I can't drink vodka because I'm not a chick, uh,
Ouch.
for the most part, I'm sticking to whiskey, and this was a good one. But I just don't like the new trend they have in those fancy whiskey bars where they're like, yeah, we're going to smoke this whiskey for you with potpourri. And it's like, fuck me.
But that's what they're doing now?
They were doing that as
Dude.
this one like whiskey bar I was at. They were smoking it, and I can kind of see the point. Like, let's say you have like an American bourbon that's aged in white oak barrels.
Right.
I can kind of see that you'd add to that by smoking it with a tiny bit of white oak, so you get more of the oak flavor to it.
It just seems
No,
so
I haven't.
pedantic that like you're fucking with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like when I would go, there was Big Bar in Japan, a great place in Montreal had that, and for them it was just they were like the big flex was the Japanese whiskeys, which is essentially Irish whiskeys, right? They're just like autistic level Irish whiskey. But yeah, for them it was all about like they had to cut the slice of cucumber or whatever like razor thin and that. I'd find it'd be weird if somebody had like a smoke machine and he's pulling some Dr. Frankenstein shit on my drink. I'm like, dude, I just want to get drunk and taste good. What are you doing?
Well, I can kind of see that, but then again, like it depends on what kind of place you go to. Like if you go to a specialized whiskey bar, they're gonna pull that type of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And no, whiskey and cola zero. What the fuck, dude? If you would,
I
like,
was pretty sure he was baiting you on that one. I thought that was the guy that's
yeah, I
been
think
talking
so
shit to
too.
you all stream.
No,
A nice
but
peaty whiskey and Mountain Dew is great.
by the way, Aaron, if you're curious why I don't laugh, I laugh, but I mute my mic out when I do, so it doesn't drown out Ryan.
Yeah, you guys got to remember, like Carl is the funny one in the group here. He's the one that's got open mic experience in that. So like if he laughs at my jokes, it ruins the whole dynamic. I have to be the guy with ugly shirts, and he gets to be the funny one who's read philosophy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like these guys don't know branding. Jesus.
Yeah. No, but like I got kind of that worked out. Like I've been doing that since like early that show that shall not be mentioned,
Oh,
where I will unmute my mic when I'm about to speak, and then I'll mute it again as soon as I'm finished speaking. Because one of the worst things for me when I listen to podcasts are when people don't mute out their microphones so they drown each other out. It's part of the reason why I kind of dialed down my Red Man group appearances too, because with 7 dudes on there and everyone edging to talk, it's unavoidable and it just gets annoying.
well, I think that's where like the host makes or breaks a podcast. I'm finding that. Like it's the reason why I like hosting, but I hate hosting if I'm not ready for it because it's herding cats. You have to basically drive the conversation, and you kind of have to know, like for ours, I know what kind of stuff you talk about. I know what kind of stuff Rolo talks about, and so you almost have to like set up the question. So like I know Rolo will answer this one with a speech on hypergamy. I know Carl will talk about like really fine food with this one, and then you put it out there so the guys kind of intuitively know who to take over, but you can't talk. You have to basically like just set people up. And I think that's the hard part because everybody thinks it's just like being a guest. It's like it's not. And it's hard to do, man. Like I'm trying to get better at it and it's fucking difficult. I'm impressed on guys who have multi-panel podcasts on the regular and manage to keep it like going well. They got a real skill.
Oh yeah, it's impressive, and like I've been the guy who's supposed to keep track of panel debates before at conferences, and it's surprisingly difficult when you don't have a button to mute everyone's microphones.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Although, yeah, to be fair, corporate meetings, if you ever want to see how bad a podcast can get, go to a Zoom meeting. Any corporate Zoom meeting
Oh,
ever
holy
for
shit, man!
anybody's. Yeah. You're going to see exactly why good microphones make a difference, why good lighting makes a difference, why, speaking voices make a difference. All of this, you're going to see everything you could fuck up, you'll fuck up. These guys might as well start like 10 subscriber YouTube channels. How bad they are. But I guess for business, nobody tries to get better at it because everybody just kind of accepts it's going to be a piece of shit meeting, right? And they're just doing it because that
Yeah,
way they
but
don't have to work.
yeah, but I don't know. I don't really want to go into meetings. I just kind of had a massive ass rant about that on Friday. So,
Fair point. Fair point. We'll switch the topics now.
do I
Dude,
really want to rail against people about Zoom meetings and another lockdown right now?
I don't know. I just find it's interesting how people will do things and they don't want to be better at it. You know, like every
Oh
part
yeah,
of this stuff, I try to get better at. Like talking with you, having a podcast, maybe making a video, learning how to edit, getting better with the equipment, getting better with the speaking voice. It's all just fun to get good at something for the sake of getting good at it. The only thing I suck at, like I said, is marketing. But I think you were right. We kind of did that as a purposeful choice because we don't need, dick writers in here talking about what's the latest thing that somebody who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing talks about. I guess semen retention. I hate harping on
I don't
that
know,
same thing.
but that was actually a tip I got from Illimitable Man when I was early starting to write, and he was just
Mm-hmm.
like, just write what you kind of want to read, and then the people who want to read what you're offering will come to you, and you'll have a lot more of a pain in the ass audience that way than trying to appeal to people who you already now think are annoying cunts.
Which is funny because that's like very red pill dating advice too. It's not about trying to accommodate every girl and get all the girls. It's about, like you said, finding your niche. Do the things that signal attractiveness to a niche of girls that you're into, and then they will tend to flock to you. And then you just filter through enough that you catch those ones.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, part of my thing is also grandfathering shit in. Because, okay, this is only like relationship valid advice, I'd argue, because you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
care about, what girl you have a one night stand with thinks about your lifestyle. Plates have very limited input, but once you have a girl, the more things you grandfather in, like, let's say you enjoy smoking cigars, it's better to have that grandfathered in that this guy likes smoking cigars when you met her, as opposed to trying to bring that in 5 years into a relationship. Like, yeah, I think I want to start spending money on cigars.
Dude, and how many relationships have that problem? Like, let's use the wife example. Fucks like a porn star. Then they get married, have the kid, and now she's like, yeah, I actually never liked sex. I just knew that's how you get to this point. Like, imagine how much that bait and switch sucks for men, and then think about all the shit that we do and just roping women into that. I thought I was dating this attractive guy, but all he does is play Fortnite all day and smoke weed. Like, I didn't see that coming. Fuck, if you want some Fortnite weeds fan, just do that from the start. I don't know. What are the odds that you're going to have a weed smoking Fortnite girl, though? Although, if the black pill guys have like female lurkers, then I'm sure everybody's got their own niche gamer girl that they can find.
Yeah, but that's the most hilarious thing to me, though. Like, you actually have girls trying to hit up MGTOWs to get fucked.
And they're going for it, too. Not very
Like,
MGTOW, sir.
there are actually like fucking black pill groupies. That should tell you everything you need to fucking know, man.
I don't know why. This one made me laugh, too, with Filthy Casual. Did it with a dirty mattress on the floor the night I met her. Like, nice. Milk crate, TV stand, masculinity. Dude,
And
I love
I
that
do
stuff. It's the one we always disagreed with Rich on that. It's like, dude, just like get it out of your system when you're broke. So that way when you're rich, you can tell the difference between a gold digger and a girl who's into you. It doesn't seem that hard, but a lot of guys fight it. Black. Oh wow. You guys don't know. Okay, Carl, they don't even know. Boys. Boys. Yes. Black pill guys, the ones that bitch about girls who'd rather have sex with dogs, there is still gamer girls. There is niche girls that go in there because they can be top of the F pile. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. What was the one? The Brazilian chick. What was her name? Fuck, she sent me that stupid
Oh yeah,
Instagram DM for talking
I know
shit.
the chick that was got into George Bruno, Carolina Hermes.
That's the one. Yeah, she's sitting there, MGTOW dictionary guy, the tomato farmer. She's all into that. I hate that I know this stuff, but it is just funny. Oh, even last night,
Well,
dude. Oh, sorry, go first. I'll tell you my story after.
no, go with your story first.
Okay, so I'm at this EDM concert. I can't remember the guy's name. It was actually pretty good. It's like future funk stuff. Anyways, so I'm sitting there, and by the way, fuck you, Manosphere, that I'm sitting here at a concert enjoying myself, and this thought came to me. In front of me, right at the tart, there was like this 6 foot tall, really thin chick, good looking, I think. She was wearing a mask. And then what could only be described as a manlet beside her. And there was a bunch of like 6'4" dudes right beside all them. She is hooked on this guy. Like constantly making out with him, hands all over him, stuff like that. And he's sitting there. He's like, comes up to the chest of the other dudes. And then I'm enjoying this concert, and all I could think of is like, well, MGTOWs, what do you got now? So fuck you guys. I took a
He's
picture of it
probably
just from the
rich.
back. Maybe he's rich. He was dressed like a normal guy, though. I mean, he might be rich, but she's all over him as if she really likes him. And this was 6 foot with no heels, by the way. She was wearing flats. He was just owning that shit. And then I remember, what's the big line? This is where the touch grass thing came in. We're like, yeah, girls are hypergamous, which means that as soon as a guy has a little bit more money or is a little bit taller, she'll jump ship. I'm like, well, the tall dudes were right there, and that guy's wearing some designer shit, and she's hooked on her little Italian boy here. So like, fuck, whatever. And I just laugh at all these pet theories everybody has, and all you have to
I
do is
do
go
think
outside, and you can see whether it's true or not.
I do think that specific one
I know it's one
is an
data point.
oversimplification. Well, it's an oversimplification.
Of course it is.
And I think a lot of what we do are oversimplifications, which is why I got fucking bored with them.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that the red pill isn't universal law. It's not like a law of fucking nature. It's a
No,
rule
God,
of
no.
thumb.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
heuristics.
it's better to be within average shape as opposed to being overly skinny or overly fat. It's better to have a reasonably good haircut as opposed to a trash haircut. It's better to be wearing clothes that reasonably fit you as opposed to shit that's either too big or too small.
Yeah, cocky funny beats having a good job and being dour.
And most girls are bored out of their fucking minds, man.
Yep.
Like, most girls would rather have a fucking yad stop that puts on a clown nose and entertains her for 5 minutes over, her regular boring fucking life.
Yeah. And you can go out and test this for yourself, boys. I've done it. Just the simplest thing. Here's an opener that I did once, just to practice, see if it worked. Remember those Starbucks drinks, the unicorn ones, the LGBT frappuccinos or whatever? I just looked at that girl and I'm like, what the fuck is that diabetes drink you have in your hand? There's an opener for you, and I can tell you it works. You can open with anything.
I read meet in my girl the other day. What really is the difference between a vibrator and a side chick?
Ooh. Is that rhetorical, or is there like a punchline to this?
No, there was an actual like red meat baiting to it.
Oh. I like that
Because
too, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if it's just a
Because,
side
like-
chick for sex, not much.
Yeah, and that was my argument too, but it red meated the fuck out of her.
She threw out all of her vibrators that day. Now you got to ditch your side pieces. You're like, fuck, backfired. Start deleting all the Pizza Hut delivery messages on your phone. Pizza
Yeah,
Hut
but
delivery.
then again, you gotta get to the point like that, because that's kind of the point where I think you need to take a break from game, when you don't actually know the distinction between a side piece and a vibrator.
Well, it's not that there is, like, I get it. Like, from a philosophical standpoint, there's no difference. It still serves the same function. But you kind of have to, like, put it, like, you're right, just put it aside, like, ignore it. That's why I love the MGTOW guys. A lot of times they get shit right. Girls are hypergamous. They'll jump to a better option if they can, to a certain point. Yeah, but if you let that occupy your thoughts and it changes your behavior, it kind of ruins the point the lesson was there for. Like, be top tier. Girls pick out of their best options. If it's you, it's great. And then if you're constantly worried about that going on again every 10 seconds, it's like, people aren't that flippant. Girls have ego too. If they pick a man, nothing makes them stay on their ego more than sticking with that man, because otherwise she has to admit she made a bad choice. And no girl's going to admit that. Why do you think they stay with drug dealer loser boyfriends? Oh, you just don't know him like I do. I fell down some stairs.
Yeah, and then you also have to take into account switching costs, right?
Switching costs.
Because like I recently switched to Linux as my primary operating system.
God, you poor bastard. Which flavor? And don't say
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Ah,
Yeah, it's the easiest one.
of course it is. That's like, I like Windows, but I want it to be uglier. Can you help me out? Ubuntu's like, I got you, fam.
No, the whole point here was that with Windows 11 coming out, they have so much tracking shit in there that I'm just not comfortable upgrading. So I was like, okay, you know what? If I have to pick between, an uglier version of Windows and basically everyone in Silicon Valley, plus the entire US government having access to 100% of my data, I'll go with the uglier version of Windows.
Well, fuck you for making a really good point.
So that was the argument there, but the whole point is like the reason why it took me so long to switch is just that I'm so fucking used to Windows. Same thing with my phone. Like I've used Androids for 10 years now,
Yeah.
and I'm not exactly happy with them, but having to learn fucking iOS is just a pain in the ass, and I know Apple on the other side is just gonna fuck me in some other way, so who cares?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with girls. Like, whenever you do things, you raise the switching cost. Okay, let's say you're 5'8", and your girl sees a 6'2" dude. She's still going to take into account the work she put into domesticating you, the entanglement she has, and so on. So the new offer has to be that much better. Like, if LeBron James shows up with like 200 fucking million in the bank, and he's 6'6", you're 5'8", and you're worse in every way, of course she's gonna fucking switch.
Yeah.
Like, I
Maybe.
would fucking do.
But that's the
Well,
thing too. A lot of girls have that they know LeBron's not going to settle down with her. And some girls will make that choice like, fuck it, if I get knocked up, I can get paid, that's great. A lot of girls are like too, it's like they know the Icarus story, you know what I mean? I'm not going to fly into the sun. I'm going to burn my wings. And sure, the blowjob will be great, but I mean, that's the thing, right? What's that old relationship argument? Like, if you could pick 5 celebrities, which ones would you be allowed to cheat with? It's like, you can't get worried about that stuff either. Best advice I ever got was from Frenchie, this guy in his 60s. Widowed, actually. That was his red pill thing. He had the perfect high school wife, trad con fantasy, made a lot of money. She actually died. And his red pilled problem was learning to move on and have fun with other girls. Because no girl ever compared to his wife. She was perfect in every way, and then she passed on. And so we teach him a little bit of how to hate fuck and stuff like that. And then he learned, okay, so I can fuck a girl, but she doesn't have to beat my wife in like greatness. But his advice for that, she's like, yeah, at one point she had like a crush on the high school gym teacher of our kids. And all he did was just poke fun at her. So yeah, LeBron comes at your girl. Yeah, if you get her, I'll throw in the car for free.
Yeah, and to kind of throw the answer to one, like, if I got 100 million out of it, I've done a lot more shady shit for a lot less money.
Fair point. I've broken the law for a lot less money. Besides, I saw that movie. Didn't she end up going back to Woody Harrelson anyway? The Demi Moore one?
Oh yeah,
Remember the one I'm
the
talking
white
about?
man can't dunk.
No, Indecent Proposal, I think it was called. It was Demi
Oh
Moore
yeah, indecent
and Woody
proposal. Yeah.
Harrelson and the fucking Playboy guy. I can't remember his name.
Well, kind of the point, like, if some guy came and like, most guys won't admit it, but if some guy came to you and like, I'll pay you $1 billion to fuck me for 30 minutes. I'm willing to say 99% of dudes would take that.
Yeah. But you know what? And I love these conversations. Like, I like this now because we're just fucking around, shooting the shit. We're trying to talk. It's like a surrogate about
It's
values.
like,
Are you willing to do what it takes?
well, I had a girl in my circle who used to be a hooker. Still kind of is. She's a hoe now, but she just doesn't get paid anymore.
Is that an upgrade or a downgrade?
I don't know, but her argument was like, okay, I can work 4 hours a week, or I can spend 40 hours a week in the cash register at Walmart. It's a fucking fuck ton less degrading to get fucked for 4 hours than to be in the cash register at Walmart for 40.
Chattel slavery or wage slavery? Which one, boys? Yeah, and I like these conversations for that. The thing I don't like though is that's how people get taken off the rails. Like purple pill debate versus red pill is the perfect example of that. It's such like a Reddit move. You bring up some hypothetical that doesn't really exist in practice and only exists in like some perfect philosophical airtight argument. And there's never like red pill's messy. It's guys doing guy things. There's no, like you said, there's no right way to do it. There's no ultimate truth. So if you want to punch holes in it, it's very easy. But it's never, the goal was never to be airtight. The goal was to be like useful. And I find a lot of people when they don't want to do the work, they default to these hypothetical examples. Like, well, can you say hypergamy doesn't work because this let's say an alien came down and he was 6 foot, and you're like, fuck, touch grass, man. Go outside, talk to a person. You're gonna find you don't need to be perfect. You don't even need to be average. You just need to be good enough for so many things.
Well, you just have to be the guy that can outrun the bear, basically.
Oh yeah, or no, outrun your friend, or outrun the bear. Which one?
And outrun your friend, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
But the point being that most of the time, I think the big hindrance we have here is that we set up this perfect image of the alpha. And that's what you have to aspire to. But that's not real. That's just, kind of like a moon that you shoot for.
Yeah.
But
it's an amalgamation of everything you could possibly think of that would be beneficial. Taken to the extreme.
But for 8 out of 10 guys, you're going to be perfectly average. And you're going to do pretty damn well. If you're a little bit charming and you have a little bit of red pill knowledge.
Exactly. Like an AvidTuber here, he's asking you, what do you think about having blue-pilled friends? Why would you lose your friends? Like, let's put it this way. Let's say you get red-pilled, you learn how to be, alpha or whatever the fuck. And then you're like, well, now I lost all my friends and I can't watch movies. Like, is it really that good for you that you took the pill? Like, that's some weird antisocial shit. Yeah, I took some new Gumroad course and now nobody wants to talk to me. It's like, I don't think it's helping. Like, keep your blue pill friends. All blue pill means is you're not red pilled. It doesn't mean you're useless or retarded or anything like that. The only thing I would suggest is if you have super thirsty friends, probably keep them at arm's length, because as soon as they get a whiff, they tend to do stupid things. But that's more of like a practical thing.
That's more of a risk management issue more than anything else, I'd say.
But I'd say even like guys that are blue pilled, they don't know what Rolo Tomasi is. Even they kind of understand. Like, this guy will jump on anything. No, you cannot go on vacation with my wife and keep her company, sir.
And I think that's also something you need to learn, because I used to get, when I was active, a lot of those how do I red pill my friends things.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And for the most part, it's like you don't need to red pill them. Just kind of give them gentle nudges, like the one Ryan just had. Like, well, that chick will get with anyone. Most guys get with that. I mean, you don't have to use the fucking vernacular.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Avoid the vernacular. I'm finding this
Yeah.
out. So I got a bunch of new guys on my Patreon, and they come in. I know it's not like me to dunk on the Fresh and Fit podcast, but they come in. Yeah, I found your guys' channel from Fresh and Fit. I want to oak the alpha, and like they just start throwing the jargon out as like a big stream of consciousness. It's like an Alex Jones rant, and I'm like, holy fuck. Then he talks about some simple things like these are my lifts, and it's like pink weight lifts. You're like, holy shit. All right. So I'm telling you guys this. I don't offer like flat out like this is what you must do. This is the one thing I'm going to say. The first thing you should do once you become red pilled is ditch the jargon as fast as possible, because the last thing you want to be is like philosophy Twitter, or like Bible quote Twitter. The guys, Carl, that they can't really articulate thoughts, so they can just quote somebody else. Like the Evola stands were always like that. Well, Evola said this. Well, Jesus said this. It's like, why don't you say something?
Jordan Peterson said, clean your room. That means this, whatever I want it to mean.
Exactly.
That's, I think, one of the interesting things, because I ended up rereading Peterson here.
Right.
And the most interesting thing is how Forer effect friendly he is.
How so? Like, go walk me through this one. I'm curious.
Okay, so the Forer effect, right? It's essentially
no.
why horoscopes work. It's like you make something general enough that most people can agree with most of it, and they'll just ignore what they didn't agree with.
It's like Scott Adams.
Yeah, and Peterson is very similar if you read his books. It's general enough and packed into enough flowery language that you can kind of skate around it.
Dude,
And
I don't know if that makes me respect him more or less now, because that's brilliant.
makes me respect him more as a businessman, less as a scholar.
That's what so I was petting strange cats on the street, and it turns out all I got was rabies. God damn it. Yeah, no, I've noticed that a lot of like the big accounts like Naval, Scott Adams, Cernovich even, just say a bunch of things and make it vague, and so it kind of appeals to everybody. I was noticing even when I was doing memes, my best memes are the ones that either side of the meme think that I'm making fun of the other side.
Yeah, but that's why I love Ed Lattimore and still respect him. It's just he has this amazing capacity to draw folks in with that like Naval type obscure motivational speech shit, and then we'll just hit you with like 2 days straight of crack jokes to get rid of the people with no sense of humor.
Yeah, and even tells you you're doing it. It's like, hey guys, welcome to the channel. Let's talk about crack. Most of you are probably gonna leave, and I'm cool with that. I think that's the part I love about Ed's marketing is like nobody's honest anymore. You know, like Tim Pool doesn't actually believe half the shit he's saying. I'm sure most like really popular brands don't.
Hey,
believe
every
shit.
guy, every person who works at Fox News is vaccinated, or they're not allowed to come to work.
Yeah, yeah. There's a point to it too. Yeah, but that's what I like because he's like, even though his stuff is not edgy, it doesn't have to be edgy, but at least you know it's honest. Like there's a human being there. It's it's almost like what's that stupid meat brand? Nuggets or whatever. Who's the Americans? You know what I'm talking about? Fuck, I gotta look this up now. It's like meat.
Like,
I
I
didn't
have no
follow the
clue.
stupid thing. Meat. I don't know. There's this stupid meat strips. All they do is they like cut strips of beef and they sell them. But the account on there was like the original, like you know how brands now talk like, you know, actual people. It's the first one that kind of started doing that. He's actually pretty funny. Like he brought up a big thing about why cancel culture is ridiculous and it's just a grift. And I'm like, wow, this is what I needed when I'm making my Philly cheesesteak. Sure. I just enjoy that stuff. I think honesty almost at this point is like a niche branding thing.
Well, it's kind of like annoyed me with like that whole Black Rifle Coffee thing.
Was that the ones where they did something that Democrats liked and now everybody hates them? Or like, I don't know the details.
I have no idea. I just remember the old things that they used to do
Okay.
because it was such obvious marketing to like the truck nut demographic.
Oh, beards, Jesus, guns,
Guns.
yeah. Dude,
And, like,
you had a whole rant on that, which was hilarious, which is still getting views today. People love those rants, those little battle rap rants you had.
I should keep writing them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point I was getting at is like, I don't care about the politics of my coffee company. I care that they have good fucking coffee.
Heaven forbid.
Like, I don't care. Like, the guy who made the whiskey I'm currently drinking, I don't care if he has his entire family imprisoned in his basement. It's still good whiskey.
Yeah. Well, it's the way it used to be. Like, heck, everybody loves Van Gogh and Gauguin. Gauguin was sleeping with 15-year-olds, or like 13. He had his own Epstein Island, his fucking most influential artist. Van Gogh's sleeping with hookers and self-mutilating. Everybody's like, yeah, whatever. Picasso was like married to a 50, or sleeping around with 15-year-olds too, wasn't he? Like all these
Yeah,
super famous guys. What's his name? Salvador Dali was completely hooked on acid, PTSD from like the world wars and shit. But nobody cares.
Every
It's
single
the
musical
art was
artist from like 1950 to like 19, well, until New Kids on the Block was drugged out of their fucking mind.
great. Oh yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis with his 14-year-old first wife. Yeah, people forgot about that one. But I agree, and I know that's what's that whole thing? The argument of can you separate the art from the artist? And I don't know why it's even an argument. It's like, of course, you can't argue
thing
that.
is, like-
Otherwise, you'd have to
like-
throw away like medical training on hypothermia because they were testing it on the Chinese. By
Yeah, plus a
freezing them to
lot of
death.
fuck ton of prisoners of war in German concentration camps. Almost everything we know about bringing someone back to life from extreme advanced stages of hypothermia was done in Dachau.
Yeah. You got to separate art from the artist. You got to separate this stuff. And yeah, you try not to do it, but somebody's going to do it. And if it works, it works. Just throw the guys that did it into what's the Hague? Call it a day. I mean, you could be the moral high ground. It's like, well, we've never treated animals poorly, and that's like enjoy your Luddite lifestyle.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, like, show me someone who's the moral winner, and I'll show you someone who lost.
Isn't that like it's not the American conservative thing? They want to lose nobly. And that's why they haven't won anything in like 20 years.
I'd say it's a Democrat thing.
Oh, fair enough. I'm not the best with American politics, so I kind of just know like a very surface level, which I guess makes me knowledgeable about American politics. I only know
Yeah,
the
like
people
that-
and the drama.
Yeah, like that one Doe thing that won is talking about now with Ryan Holiday's unbearably woke now. I don't think he is. I just think it's another grift for him. He's been a grifter since he worked for Tucker Max back in like 2008.
Well, dude, he wrote the book on grifting. Like,
Yeah, so
I remember that when Anthony Johnson guy, he started doing all this weird shit, and I looked at this and I'm like, he just read Ryan Holiday's media manipulation, and chapter by chapter, he's doing the stuff that Ryan did in there. It's like, I can tell you what he's going to do next month, and sure enough, he did. I'm like, oh, fair enough. Doesn't really work, because it turns out that's like you're doing 2010 marketing on 2020 people, but whatever. But I'm curious here. So his super chat, Juan Does again, mix it with Talib. Becoming anti-fragile and aware. You don't need to become the Ubermensch or straight sociopath. Agree. I don't know much about Talib. I finally know what Lindy means. And I remember his article on intellectual yet idiot. You've read a lot. You've read his stuff, right?
yeah, I'd have.
And anti-fragile, I just assume anti-fragile means like if something fucks up, you'll be fine. Like it's not going to
Well,
destroy you.
anti-fragility is essentially a concept of things that become stronger when there's chaos around them.
Oh, well, in this case, the manosphere must be just fucking strong as shit.
Well, that was like the whole concept behind anti-fragile was essentially things that gain power when there's disorder around them.
Okay.
So let's say the Swiss canton system for government, where each region is essentially largely self-contained and the main government only handles foreign policy, is more anti-fragile than most Western democracies where you rely on a central government for everything, because kill that central government and you're fucked, right?
Right.
So that's the concept of anti-fragility. So a lot of guys have taken that to mean, at least when I was still active in this space, that, have your own brand, do your own thing, run your own business. But then again, if you're running anything online, you could be fucked by Cloudflare or Cisco or 1,000 other subscribers if you put something, or suppliers, if you put something out there. So I just don't think there's any way of being anti-fragile while being online. Because Stormfront was, in theory, anti-fragile. Because, for those who don't know, Stormfront is like a huge neo-Nazi site.
Yeah.
And they have their audience that are fully aware that these guys are neo-Nazis.
Or feds.
And they actually like them for it. And if neo-Nazis are under attack, they support Stormfront more. What Stormfront didn't
Are you talking about like
account for,
from a free speech perspective, or from like they love the message perspective?
from a message perspective, like,
Gotcha.
if like the whole concept of anti-fragile is if YouTube cancels you, your audiences will follow you wherever the fuck you go. So no matter what, if they go after you, you become stronger.
Which is funny because we were just talking about like build your audience, like chase the dragon, the fresh and fit model, the Tim Pool model, or like you said with the Illimitable Man model. Do the thing you do, and then the people that find you are the ones that are already into it, which is a way more anti-fragile perspective, but it's slower. And you're right.
Yeah,
all
it's
these
much
people talking
slower.
about anti-fragility, they're literally chasing the dragon, so they're being very fragile. Because then once they get banned, everybody will move on to the next guy with a beard and, an American flag behind his podcast station.
Yeah, and,
So
that's what it's always going to be. Like how many people? Let's say you had an account. How many people followed Milo to Gab?
nobody. Well, even Crowder. Remember Crowder when he got his YouTube ban and he went to BitChute and he lost like 90% of his audience?
And there's
That's not very
convenience.
anti-fragile.
Well, it's the same thing I've been saying about human relationships. Like, you can have, like, some of my college friends, we were close and we were like, yeah, we're going to be friends forever. How many am I in contact with when we're in about 11 different countries? Fucking none.
None.
At best, it ends up being a situation where, hi, I'm going to be in your country and your city next week. Want to grab one drink? Okay, I'll see if I can make that happen. Question mark.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Dude, if you came to Toronto, I would totally make some time. Sorry, guys, canceling the Minecraft stream. I'm going to grab a drink with Carl. I have to try this Irish whiskey he's telling me about.
No, point
Right?
being is just that a lot of our relationships and a lot of what we do are convenience based. Like
Oh, for sure.
I stopped watching Terrence Pop when I stopped having a TV in my bedroom. Because
That's
like
funny.
I would always watch his podcast or his videos when I was about to go to sleep.
Oh, and so then when
So
the convenience went away, you went away.
yeah, so that's what happened there. Or like with uh, well, it's a lot of other things. You just stop when it stops being convenient. Like I would love to be playing some of the games I used to play, but there's just way too high of an investment in time to be able to even be part of it. So I'd rather, practice my law skills so I can kick Ryan's ass when I finally give him my PlayStation ID.
You joke, man. I'm back in Fujin. You're going down. My
You're
Lei
still
Wulong's
playing late?
becoming. What's that? Yeah, of course. I like him. It's just I'm that guy who like remember Street Fighter Dan? Like I'm the joke character guy. I'm the guy who likes things that are complicated just for the sake of being complicated. Because then if you can
Well,
get
the
good
thing
with that, you can get good with anything.
I'd say the big benefit to Lei Wulong is that you can essentially counter every style as long as you know how to play well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like you live or die by your creativity and being able to beat your opponent, not the character. Some characters have really good things. You only have to guess right a couple times. Him, you have to be on point all the time. And I kind of like that too because then it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's that same attitude. Like I got to be good enough at something so that if anything new comes up, I can adapt to it. Which I guess is that little vestige of like perfectionism that I have to get out of my system. Cuz that was really not a healthy way of doing.
Because like that's the one thing I dislike the most about the characters I tend to play. They're all hard rush characters. So if you know how to defend for like the first 30 seconds, I'm probably going to lose.
Ah,
But if I get an opening for those first 30 seconds, you're fucked.
fair enough. But I like this stuff. I'll have to get a PlayStation 5. That's the new thing. If the supply chains hold up, maybe able to get one. We can do that again.
Yeah, I haven't gotten one either. It's just on the like I have the PS4 Pro,
Mm-hmm.
but I just didn't get the new one because like I want to be able to kind of impulse buy one. If I have to go into like a waiting list or partake in a lottery or whatever, I'm just
Like you were
not going to
just
do
saying
it.
about the convenient factor.
Yeah,
Same thing.
it's huge for me. Like I can't understate like for me how huge convenience is.
I don't know. I want to go back to that thing. So I was really, and we're almost at the end here, but I was thinking when you were talking about how you stopped watching pop, when you stopped having the TV in the bedroom. The weird part from like the pop side, I'm not saying Terrence. I'll just pick whatever big guy, Steven Crowder, doesn't matter. Fresh and Fit doesn't matter. And that you do that, you chase the dragon, you hit on the right, thing that catches the audience attention for that 15 minutes. And I think as a guy, your ego automatically tells you that you're just better. It's not that you got lucky. It's not that you've hit the right niche and that you've caught these people's attention, but they don't really care about you. They care more about the message. And then you kind of equate that to being you're awesome. Same as like a natural chicks. I could get any girls. I'm God's gift. Turns out he's unattractive as fuck. He's just hot. And that after that first date and the first lay, nobody else wants anything to do with him because he's a fucking idiot. And I always find that funny because those guys will hit those highs. They think it's all because of my own doing. And then something happens, because it always does, where it goes away. If you're the super hot Chad who's a natural, you gain some weight or you get an injury one day and your knee's fucked, and then it all goes away. The part that worries me and the part where I like being anti-fragile is that they never learned how to deal with adversity or hardship. And you're right. And then those guys have a fucking blowout. And that's where you get, like, remember when, what's the fuck, Milo? Milo got his ban and then he just went fucking crazy. Or Roosh kind of lost all his attention. He kind of went crazy. I find most guys aren't used to dealing with hardship and they're so scared of it that they'll avoid making good decisions just so they never have to be in that position where they have to do like a Roosh grift and find Jesus or whatever. I just don't like guys hiding from the human experience. It's kind of like part of being a guy is to experience, right? Like what else do we got?
Yeah, but I think that's kind of where we're at, though. Like, most of our audience comes in from a place of avoiding experience actively.
Yep. That's why I like us
Because,
talking about experience because then it lets them know like things happen, not always good, and they happen. And it's fine. You'll be fine.
well, like, let's just say for the sake of argument, like, if you'd been active when you were 15
Mm-hmm.
and everyone started getting interested in girls, you would know how girls signal that they're into you.
Should hope so.
Because they're not exactly subtle when they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would know all this shit, but because you were inactive at that time, you don't know, so you have to come back, and now you have to learn it. But not only do you have to learn it, you have to practice in an environment that's 5, 10, 15 years more advanced than you are. So you're
Just fun
essentially
being the underdog.
well, you're essentially walking into a jujitsu gym as a white belt, and you're trying to roll with all the purple belts. It's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm. But you learn faster.
Oh yeah, you have to learn real quick, otherwise you'll get choked the fuck out.
And that's the other thing. You're going to get choked out a lot when you start. Again,
Oh
guys hitting
yeah.
on girls, you're going to get shut down a lot. Business wise, anti fragile, you're going to step on your dick a lot and make stupid decisions and leave money on the table. But I think that's the
Hell, man.
switch that guys got to get
I,
through is where they stop thinking of that as losing or failing. It's almost like a cost of learning. It's like that's the original Gumroad course. All the times you got shot down was the cost you paid to get good with girls. All the times
well,
that you
to
left
be
money on the
honest, like
table is the price you pay for learning how to handle a business.
I would love to see Troy and Krauser and all the legit PUAs
Mm-hmm.
actually openly post their close rates.
Ooh, that would be fun.
D-
Didn't
Well,
somebody do that once? I want to say it was Tom
well,
Torreo, but one of them did that, and
well,
that's where they found out that it was like 5% or something like that.
well, not like to give them shit, but just to give guys a realistic perspective.
Yeah. Fuck, who
Because
was it that did that then? Because somebody did do that. I just don't remember
someone
who.
did, but I just like all of the legit PUAs to do it. Just because that would be, because I think you'd find that the rate is a lot closer than you think, and the guys are striking out and facing rejection a fuck ton more often than you really think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 to 5%. That was I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I think that was roughly where I was at when I did 50 and 50.
Yeah. I know for sure it was under 10, and 5% kind of rings a bell. But I actually had a client back when I was taking clients did that. He was like, I've been doing this forever. I get like maybe 7% close rate. And I'm like, dude, do you not realize like that's insane? He goes, what? I'm like, yeah, that's like top tier. He goes, what? Really? I'm like, yeah, it's not my fault. You just assumed all these pickup guys are just like pussies falling from the sky like manna. No, you have to work for it. You have to get through with rejection. And he hadn't lost weight yet. He just bought like a leather jacket. And he was trying his best. I'm like, yeah, see, now it's only up from here. That's why people like building social circles, because that 5% becomes 20% when you have like a friend of a friend at a house party. You get that pre-selection already. And it's easy for you to do icebreakers because you've approached 500 women that have never seen you before and made a decent conversation. So if you meet somebody you already know, it makes your life so much easier. But yeah, you're right. It's like the odds of you picking up on a day game approach are the same odds of you actually dating a bipolar chick. It's that low. It's fine. What else
Yeah,
are you gonna do?
let's say your close rate. Let's say you know that the close rate of pro PUAs is 5%.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running a reliable close rate of, let's say, 10, you know you're punching below your weight. You know you could go for hotter chicks.
Yep.
And if your game is like 2%, then you know, okay, I need to work on some stuff here.
Right. But yeah, I agree. If you're following guys that like all you need is a Lamborghini and a Dream Boys and they'll be falling in your lap, you're probably thinking nothing you do is ever good enough. I would say that's by design because if you're always insecure about like your ability to close, of course you're going to keep giving these guys money because they're offering you a solution.
Yeah, obviously. And I think it's just also part of the reason behind the like oversell of only going for nines and tens is to force an artificially low close rate on these guys.
Ooh, I never actually took it from that angle. I always thought it was just setting up for the impossible. But it was like, yeah, it's literally just to like put your finger on the scale.
Yeah, well, because if you, let's say you're your client there, and he only hits on nines and tens, his close rate is going to go from 7%, which is good, which he thought was shit, to like 0.7%, right? Because he's constantly trying to go above, his league in a sense. or his level of ability.
Yeah.
So by setting guys up to always go for what's unattainable, you're kind of ensuring that they'll fail, which ensures that they'll come back to you to pay more money.
It's really good marketing. Which sucks though. Like I get it. For the red pill guys, they kind of learn marketing by accident because you learn how to, attract people. And what is marketing if not just attracting people to products? It's just annoying that like from the audience perspective, they aren't picking up on the meta lesson. Like you said, Peterson from a business perspective, absolutely amazing. From like a scholar perspective, not so much. And everybody should be picking up on these meta lessons, but a lot of guys are hooked on the surface stuff, which kind of gets me really jaded because I'm always like, yeah, fuck it, these guys are meant to fail. Like they can't not fail. Excuse me, sorry about that. But yeah,
That's cool. That would be a good thing to end on. We're always done now.
Yeah, fuck these guys. Let them burn. Don't red pill your
Yeah,
friends.
Like, end on the sneeze.
All right, I'll end the thing. Links in the chat. Books are good, especially Carl's.